Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the blackbusinessschool.com. Today I was thinking about football and I was talking to a young mother about her sons being pressured to play football. Um, she said that she has a son who is a genius at math and science. He is a friendly person. He wants to be successful. He wants to learn at the highest levels. That's his goal in life right now. That's what he wants to do. He's 9 years old. He's actually a member of our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program, and he has learned how to invest. And at the age of 9, he's already thinking about his future. He's thinking about buying stocks. He's thinking about building companies. He's thinking about doing things like this. But at the same time, he's getting this pressure to play football. Now, um, now, before I forget, if you want to know more about the Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program, you can just go to blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That's our wealth building program for children. But that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to make sure you knew that in case you wanted to join. Now, here's what was interesting. I talked to this mother and I said, one thing you have to understand is that systems tend to develop people. Standardized processes tend to develop thousands of people at certain levels of accomplishment. Standardization is the key. Standardized processes. If you look throughout history, you'll see that much of history was modified and affected by the development of standardized processes around things that ultimately made people very rich, ultimately had a huge impact on society. For example, when Smith and Wesson and Colt decided to start making guns, they standardized processes in factories so that they could produce so many guns that the United States now has more guns than it does people. The United States is one of the most violent countries in the world. Other countries were making guns by hand, they were making guns on an assembly line. If you look at other great achievements, whether it's automobiles or any sort of manufacturing or Wall Street or anything like that, or the educational system in America, much of this is built upon the idea of creating entire systems that produce thousands and thousands and thousands of people every single year who have a similar mindset, a similar set of goals, a similar kind of background in training, because none of it is unique or customized. Everything is standardized. So one of the things I told this mother was I told her a couple things. I said, number one, if you want your child to be the very best in the world at science and math, don't let him be a standardized product of what black males are put through in order to make them into adults. And what do I mean by that? Well, number one, the educational system is very standardized. It's like McDonald's or Wendy's or Burger King. They just crank out thousands and thousands of mediocre students every year. If your child was meant to be the next Einstein, there's a good chance that they'll never make it because the system constrains the level to which they can grow and evolve and develop. And so remember, you're not going to get a gourmet meal out of Wendy's or out of McDonald's. In order to make a gourmet meal, you're going to have somebody that takes the time and puts the tender love and care necessary into picking the right ingredients, cooking at the right temperature, adding the right spices, the right seasoning, all of those things to make that meal perfect. You're not going to get a world leading, world champion gourmet meal out of McDonald's, Wendy's, or Burger King. Black boys, unfortunately, are a product of systems that produce Wendy's, McDonald's, and Burger King. We have systems of media that spit the same ridiculous music on the radio airways all across the country every single day to the point where you've got millions of black boys who grow into thinking, I'm a thug, I'm a pimp, I'm a player, I'm a killer, I'm a gangster, all these other things. Another system that you have is one that has to do with sports. You've got Little League football programs all over the country that will start recruiting your child at the age of 3. At 3, I've seen children recruited at the age of 3 to get them ready so that when they turn 6, they're going to come out for football. You got a baby, your baby's a little bigger than the other babies. Some dude walks up and says to that mother, your son's pretty big. When you going to bring him out for football? And then when you say no, he's not going to football camp. He's going to math camp. Your son your son gets ridiculed. You get pressure from the coaches, pressure from the other parents, pressure from people who think that you're wasting your son's talent by not putting him out there on the field where he can bang heads against other people to the point where he has brain damage at some point. That starts very early. That brain damage stuff that they're talking about, that Will Smith movie Concussion, where football players were getting hit in the head so much that they were turning violent? Do you think that many of these violent incidents involving professional athletes or former athletes are just coincidental? No. Many of these people have brain damage. And so, one of the things I told this mother is I said, don't you dare be ashamed to send in your black boy to math camp and science camp. I said, number one, you make sure he's the best mathematician, best scientist he can be. And I said, number two, if he don't want to play football, then you don't put him on the field. In fact, even if he did want to play football, you might want to reconsider putting him out there on the field, because if his brain is his greatest asset, then why would you let somebody bang it up over nothing? Bang it up to the point where he can't remember what day of the week it is. I've seen guys like that. I know guys who were heroes in the gridiron. Football is both the gift and the curse, because the better you are, the more damage you can become. I watched the other day. I was watching the 30 for 30 episode with the Chicago Bears, and they were talking about how great the '85 Bears were, and they were great. They were probably one of the greatest teams in NFL history, if not the greatest. But do you know that many of these athletes, including the stars, now have early stage Alzheimer's disease? Many of them will go pick up their kids from school and can't remember how to get home, can't finish their sentences, have nightmares, depression, suicidal thoughts, all of these things as a result of getting hit in the head so many times. Some of them, like Dave Durison, just killed himself. Dave Durison's dead, and he was one of the greatest football players of all time. So what I'm going to say is this: don't let your child be ruined by standardized mediocrity or standardized self-destruction. These systems, these standards are not designed to build strong and empowered black men. They are designed to produce a factory of black men who are woefully underprepared to compete in a nasty global competitive society where war has been declared on their very existence. These black boys are showing up for a gunfight and don't even have a pocket knife. Make sure your son is better off than that. So I'm not telling you whether or not to send your child to play football, but I will tell you that I would not send my son to play football because I don't want my child to get brain damage. I would. President Obama has said the same thing, and let me end this with a story. And this will tell you where all this came from, where this passion came from. One time I went to I get these social justice causes sent to me all the time, and there was one about a poor kid named Rodney. Rodney was a great football player in the mid '90s. He was a star athlete, strong young brother, 6 foot something. Could have went on and did anything with his life. Well, one day Rodney was playing football. He took a bad hit. So Rodney wasn't just paralyzed from the waist down. He was paralyzed from the neck down. Do you know what it's like to be paralyzed from the neck down? That means you can't even twist your head. You can't lift your arm. You can't scratch yourself. You can't ever have sex ever again. You can't do anything with your body. Now here's what happened. Here's what those white folks at his school said when it happened to him. They were like, "Oh Lord, we love Rodney and we feel so bad for him and we just want to know that we're praying for you, Rodney, and we've got the best insurance for you, Rodney. It'll take care of you for the rest of your life." So, in the midst of literally experiencing the worst nightmare that any parent can experience, Rodney's mother was told, Rodney is going to be taken care of for the rest of his life. We're going to make sure he gets the best of medical care. You won't have to worry about anything. Okay, sounds good. Sort of, maybe, kind of, considering the situation. Here's the problem, though. They only expected Rodney to live another 5 or 6 years. They didn't know that Rodney was going to survive another 14 years while being paralyzed from the neck down. Do you know what that's like in terms of quality of life? To be paralyzed from the neck down for 14 years? So after 14 years, they said, you know what, we're tired of paying. We can't pay no more. So the insurance company said, you know, your policy had a limit of $1 million or whatever it was. So they said, we got to cut this. They fought like hell, but they cut it. But here's the thing. I went and I tried to help. I tried to help fight this cause. I tried to bring attention to it. And I went to the hospital to visit Rodney. And it was the saddest thing I've ever seen. This young brother, 31 years old, should have been at his peak. 31 at 31, most young guys at 31, if they're not married yet, if they're married, they're raising young children, they got a beautiful spouse, and they're building their lives, they're still setting goals and have dreams, and the ones that don't have that, they're living life, whatever it is, they're doing whatever they want to do, You got your whole life ahead of you. But for him, he had none of that. He was laying in the hospital every day, being fed by his mother through a tube, and he was trying to survive to the next day. And nothing affected me more than hearing this young black man begging his mother to let him die. Just saying, "Mama, please let me die." And she said, "No, Rodney, you can't give up. You can't give up." And I was just thinking, I mean, was this even worth it? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that we can't be football fans or whatever it is you are. But I mean, it couldn't have been worth it. Couldn't have been worth it. Now, sure, it doesn't happen to everybody. It's kind of luck of the draw, but it happens quite often. And so when I saw that happen to Rodney, when I saw this brother laying in bed begging his mother to let him die, that's when I said, I don't think it's worth it. So that's what I want to say to any parent out here who's got that young child. When you have that young black boy, there's a good chance he's gonna be a superior athlete. Black males, I think because we are survivors of the Middle Passage and spent 400 years forced into hard labor for white folks, we are physical specimens. Even as babies, they show that black babies walk faster than white kids. They can run. My little brother, I used to have him race this little white kid down the street who was about the same age, and he used to blow that kid away. So black boys are always going to be the targets for athletic endeavors because we just have that special it factor. There is no white version of Shaquille O'Neal. There is no white version of Kobe Bryant. There is no white version of Ray Lewis. The list goes on and on and on. There is no white Cam Newton. Show me a white Cam Newton. Show me a white Cam Newton, and I'll give you money off of that. There is no white Cam Newton. So here's the thing: we're always going to be targeted for these athletic endeavors, and it's up to us as parents to protect our boys from that. It's up to us to make sure that we never let anybody convince our son that all he is a damn athlete. And what's unfortunate is that many of these people who are doing the convincing are other black men who, unfortunately, they themselves were convinced that all they were athletes. I mean, it's crazy. You'll see, grown men who are taking pee wee football so serious that they think it's the Super Bowl. They think it's the biggest thing on earth. They think it's as important as world peace or as foreign policy. I've never seen grown men take a children's sport that seriously. I mean, literally, where the guys are fighting each other over whose Pee Wee League team is the best. They're crying when their team doesn't win the championship. Now, I understand you take your sport seriously, but don't you realize that your number one job is to mentor these young boys and help them grow and define young men? You're supposed to let them know that their best years are ahead of them. Not that your best years are when you playing in the 8 and 9 year old Pee Wee League. That's crazy to me. And what that does is and I'm not making fun of these guys, but what it does is it speaks to the consistent emasculation, or what Mark Anthony Neal at Duke University used to call, I think his word was infantilization of black men, where black men are kept as little boys for their entire life. And I'm not going to disagree. We are kept as little boys our entire life. We're kept in the Pee Wee leagues when we should be playing in the major leagues. We're kept in the little children's seats when we should be sitting in the big boy seats. We're kept playing in the scrub league when we should be playing with the superstars. Prepare your boys to play with the superstars. You play with the superstars by being intellectually prepared and positioning yourself where you can be a winner in life. And if that means not playing football, then I encourage parents, give your child a math book and not just a football. Football should not be the first thing he picks up when he's 4 or 5 years old. It should be a book. That's all I got to say. I'm out of here. By the way, guys, we're on the Dr. Boyce Watkins tour right now. We're going to a lot of cities across the country promoting black economic empowerment this year. The next cities on the list as of this date are Louisville on March 12th. We're going to Chicago March 26th. We're also going to Baltimore on April 28th. We're making deals to go to Las Vegas and Los Angeles and Houston and Philly and Memphis and Atlanta again and all these other places. And so I hope you'll come out and join us. And also on top of that, if you want your children to learn wealth building directly from me in my course, the program is called BlackMillionairesOfTomorrow.com. The parents love it. We have over a thousand children in this program, and it's something that will be life changing for your child. My goal is to make sure that every black child that goes through this program has the average financial literacy level that exceeds the typical college student. So they will be at the age of 9 or 10 will have a greater level of financial literacy and understanding of wealth than a college freshman. I guarantee that. If you don't see that, if you don't feel that way, then come back and get your money back. We'll give you your money back. All right. So take care, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.